So, welcome back to the leadership track. I have now the pleasure to introduce you to Guillaume Duquesnay, and he will tell us about how hard it is to confront your own opinion with teammates. Guillaume is a coach for teams and leaders, and he's looking for a positive change on simplicity, empowerment, and organic growth. And with more than 12 years of experience all over the world and in diverse domains, he has learned one very important lesson. It depends, which means that there is no one size fits all solution, and that always context is the thing which matters to make the real change. Today he will share with us how hard it is to confront your opinion with your team, tough but crucial to build better solutions. But before you start to listen to his interesting talk, please have in mind our knowledge partner, Pact and Manning, will award the most effective attendees with a free ebook. So rate a session, leave comments, ask questions for Q&A. But now let's start with Guillaume. The stage is yours. I hope you will enjoy it.
Thank you. So hi everyone. I'm trying to see, where do I see is there a way for me to see who's in the room? Yes? No? I'll use the comments eventually if I want to feedback. People feel free to give me feedback. It really helps me understand where I am. If I'm saying something crappy or unintelligible. All right. So I'm Guillaume. I'm French. I happen to live in Southeast Asia, so it's 5 p.m. for me. And around facing different cultures, I came to realize there's a topic we have in the tech world that we don't talk enough, which is a soft skill. And we're so shy about it, aren't we? So I try to break it down to one topic that I find interesting, how to confront your opinions with your teammates. Because if we don't confront two notions, there is no progress. You'll find out in books such as Radical Candor, Creative Incorporated, Good to Great, and so on. It's always pointed out as a key to team performance. How good are we at just confronting opinions? And yet, it's hard. And you know how I know it? That topic has been brought up to me, or came to me, while I was living in Paris and going between the agile world and the Java tech world. And at the Java user group, they keep having beer with me, and I was not a tech guy anymore much, and yet they still had questions. I was the soft skill guy. So sometimes they will ask me questions about their own behavior, like, hey, I think I'm very opinionated and I'm proud of what I'm doing, but maybe I'm a prick with my team. Or reversely, hey, I wonder if they treat me like the little guy, because I never know if I should I don't think we're using the right framework right now. I don't know how to bring it up. And I think at the same time, if I don't bring it up, they're going to treat me like a senior. And so my career is going to be hammered. So there is all these questions, but every time they wait for the last hour when there's nobody around, we're just having drinks. And you know why? Because it's a soft skill. And we're shy. In tech, we're shy about soft skills. We could go at length about, I don't know, which framework you want to use for UI automation, WebDriver versus Cypress. But when it comes to how do we collaborate and talk and think together as a team on tech things, we're shy. The soft skills, we're nerds. We think we're not comfortable talking about it. We're a bit ashamed of ourselves sometimes. So my goal is to bring up this topic out in the tech world. So simply consider it a one-on-one of soft skills and discussions and social skills, basically. But I want to break it down to one case that I'm really passionate about, how you confront your opinions with your teammates. So without further ado, so the idea is, how can you influence a world where you're not the boss? Let's start with that, right? That's how the topic came out to me. Just to imagine an example, right? You think we're using the wrong tool or the wrong framework in the team, but You don't have a chip on your shoulder. You're not a technical leader. You're not a manager. Maybe you're not supposed to talk, or maybe it's about another team. And so for my case here, we consider there is zero authority based in our case, right? So it's just people talking. So while breaking down the thing, if you want, so you want to influence something that is beyond your control. You want to influence the world, the universe. So I broke it down to 4 steps. 1, do you have actually something to say? Should I bring anything up? Is it only relevant? 2, knowing how to bring it up and how to discuss it with your colleagues. Then knowing eventually whom you should open your mouth with, etc. But we may not have the time to see that later, but just a couple of tips. And the last one is just knowing a little more about yourself. All right, so the first question, how do you know you have actually something to say and that you should bring up a topic? Very simple answer. By the way, I should mention this is not my sole experience. Most of what I'm bringing up here is me interviewing. After I realized there was a topic on confronting your opinion, I interviewed the best technical leaders and tech guru and tech guys I know in Paris. And I asked them a lot of things. And I know that topic came a lot. So I'm bringing up their opinion mostly. And when I ask, hey, how do you know when to talk, when not to talk? Basically, how do you know you're right? There's only one thing that makes me understand if I should speak up. Is it in the interest of the project? In any way I can see. Because if you're in tech, sometimes we like to pursue ideas, but we're not very clear why we pursue these ideas, right? I'll give you an example. I'm working on some UI test automation at the moment for my client. And at some point, I want to run all this in Docker container because I'm just bored to use this, to have to install everything. I want something that really is consistent across platform when I'm testing. So I want to know my test I'm running in a Dockerized container, perfectly mastered by me. And I spend days trying to get these freaking Docker and Firefox and WebDriver, you name it, make it work. And at some point, I got to ask myself, am I digging in for myself or is it for the project? Because I love to learn. I'm a nerd, and that's why we're in tech, right? I may not be a coder nowadays most of my time, but I love to dig in some tech problems. And at some point, I had to ask myself, am I doing it for the client or for me? And if I'm doing it for me, I know I should not pursue that, and I should not advocate for it. So, how do you know it's for you, right? Let's a quick rewind on how you know something is in interest of the project and how it can make sense. First, you need to have facts. Then you have an analysis, and that brings to an outcome. And that outcome should be the famous project thingy. So if you can't have something like that, maybe you don't have anything to bring up. If you can't figure out proper outcome, or if you don't have any relevant observation of data from the current situation, or you don't know the logic of it, maybe you're just making things up. Who knows? But this is where you can question yourself. And if you can't find any of this fact, thing, and outcome, that means probably you're doing it for your own fun. Face it, that happened. So all the super performant tech lead that I met, they're extremely intransigent about that. They want to know they have a reason to bring stuff up because they know sometime and too often we pursue technology because we like it. A technology option process, you name it. I mean, I work in Agile. I know something about people pursuing shiny processes instead of doing something that actually would work for the project. So that's how you know whether you really have something to say. So how do you bring it to people? Well, you can write books about it. So I'm trying to break it down to just a couple of items, right? The first one, look, that one's simple. Speak your freaking mind. Say it. Spill it. So before I've been what now 20 years something a consultant, right? And before that I was a software engineer, and in the middle now I'm more like in a coaching stance. But as a consultant, the moment I learned to give my best idea and just say it, I just found more tremendous value, and this is also where people started to listen. But if you already settle and don't speak it up, nothing will happen. So, and by speak your mind, I mean, don't compromise with them. Don't give the idea you think people will accept. Give your best idea, and that's it. So now you bring your best idea, right? I think we should change from, I'm going to take something from me. We should change from webdriver.io for our UI testing to Cypress, because I don't know, too much trouble with the other technology. The other one is proprietary, but I think the pros and cons are getting better. I think actually we would spend less time building test solutions and maintaining them, and more time developing for the project. That's my reasoning. So I speak my mind, and then people will answer, and I may not agree with that. So the rule for healthy debate, once you've spoken, you know how tough it is, right? And how heated it gets in the room sometimes. So I'm gonna borrow the best notion I've ever seen about the notion of assertivity for tech people, brought by a friend actually who's a senior developer. Talk about the code, never talk about the people. So I'll give you an example, right? Talk about the code, for example. Let's say I would love to ask you guys in the comments, but I don't think that's possible, or in the chat. I would love to ask you, like, do you actually have seen a code yourself and you think it was absolute crap? And that was from your colleague, not from you. But the code was crap. Did you see that something? Okay, I've seen it. And the question is, do you bring it up? And how you say it? So there are several scales, but the idea of talking about the code, I'm going to start by an extreme case actually. I would largely prefer this code is crap. It's an opinion, but it's still talking about the code. It's not exactly a super fact. You could explain why it is crap actually, or what is the bad outcome of this code, or readability, you name it. But why is bad? And the alternatives could be your code is crap. Well, you don't point the finger, but when you say your code is crap, suddenly the other person is like, that's it. You're starting a fight. It's getting personal. Talk about the code. 3, don't say you in a sentence. Don't never have you. Don't say someone, right? Don't talk about the people. There's a code, and that code is not good. Of course, that's the worst version, just so you know how bad it gets. Hey, you suck at coding, so you don't want to get there, obviously. So talk about the code, not the people. Fact. On the other side, when people talk about the code that you think is yours, or that you did, hear that they're not talking about you, talking about the code. So it's a team thing. Next. So let's say now that's it. Debate, engage, WebDriver, Cypress, React, or Angular. It's at it, and people bring their pros and cons. When should you hold your position? When should you change your mind, basically, in a conversation? If you never do it, are you just stubborn? And are you just stubborn, like the guy you can't treat with? I know people who think they're good at debating just because once they broke up a point, they never change. At the same time, if you change all the time, what's your point, right? You're not going to bring anything meaningful out. So when should you hold your position? It's simple. You remember, fact, analysis, outcome. If anything changes, change your mind. I mean, examine it, validate it, change your mind. But if there's no, to answer the question, you hold your position when there's no new rational element. Why would you change your mind? I used to tell my clients sometimes because they're engineers, but they can't become managers and everything, and they start to beat around the bush. And I'm asking them, if you're an engineer, are you changing your answer about, I don't know, the performance of your website or how long the project's going to take? Are you changing your mind because it's sunny today and tomorrow it's going to be rainy? No, the weather doesn't matter. The server doesn't go faster because it's beautiful out there. And the server doesn't go faster because your manager doesn't like the answer. We're doing science. We're doing computer things. We're doing our best all the time. And we're trying to proceed in a scientific manner. The fact don't care about us. Nothing gets faster because you yell at it. You can yell all you want. If a project is meant to be 2 months, it's going to be 2 months. See my point. So if you don't see any new rational element, no need to change. But of course, if there is a change in rational, hear it, evaluate it, and maybe change. Now, this is all well and fun. Right? It's easy to say, that's easy to practice. So here's the question. How sensitive are you to peer pressure? I'll give you a simple example. Our world in Agile has been infected, literally, and wasted by the notion of estimates and, for example, planning poker, which I don't use anymore, by the way. And here's the reason. You can put all the protocol you want. At the end of the day, you got the senior developer who looks at a ticket and say, I think this is an 8 points. And you got the junior who say, hey, I think this is 21 points. So that's the end of the planning poker protocol. Now you put them together, and because they are the two extreme nodes of the team, they should talk. And what happens usually, you got a senior who say, well, we'll do it before, I can do it in any weekend, I think it's going to be 8. And you got a junior who say, well, I mean, you know better, you're probably right. And they come with a senior. In this case, the junior is wrong. There is nothing new and rational. He's just getting personal. He doesn't assume the pressure. The team looking at it like, you really think it's 21 points? Come on. Okay, we just move on. And sometimes there is no peer pressure. We feel the peer pressure. But the point is, there were no new rational. So why voting in the first place is the point is just to take one person answer. As an engineer, you shouldn't change your mind without any new element. Okay. And well, if it's your boss, am I right? So that's a Bilbo and the Dragon. I'm working a lot on the how to have estimates, practices, and process that trigger the right conversation. And the whole point is, when your boss who's charming come to you and say, "Hey, I've seen your latest estimates, so it's gonna be 28 weeks, right? And you did your best. That's your best shot with the team. Actually, you came with a 28 to 42, let's say. You gave a range, but it's like 28, right? Yeah. And that's your best, right? Okay. Because we have that big show and it's in only 23 weeks. So that means if it's 28, it's not going to be ready for the show. So I have a lot of pressure on my shoulder. Are you sure about these estimates? And this is where you got to be a freaking engineer and you don't bail. 28 is 28. Like the politics don't change the fact if you don't know how to go faster, you don't know how to go faster. No new rational. If the boss comes to you and says, we can drop a couple of features easily, it's irrational, but that's a different conversation. And you see, I'm just impersonating a nice boss. I'm not even doing the bully, right? So my point is how to confront your opinion with others, speak your mind, have a logic behind it, or seek logic behind it, and don't budge from that. Now, the question is, why don't we think the same thing? Why are we wrong sometimes? Why? Yeah. Why doesn't everybody come up with the same idea? The idea is we're wrong. We're wrong. Sometimes we're wrong, and it's all right. We take our time to try to figure out things, figure out analytics, figure out outcomes. And this is not black and white. Most of the time, we deal with certainty, hypothesis. And when you have your logic, fact, analysis, and outcome, sometimes you don't have them all. And that's why you want to bring it up to the team, or you're not sure. And the team will bring something, and you're going to cook something up. Because remember, process comes from confronting opinions. There was a time people think that anything heavy will fall. If it's heavier than air, it can't fly. And there comes guys who say, "Hey, you know what? I think if we got a thing in a shape of the shape of like this, like a wing, and then there's an airflow because we go fast. Maybe the airflow could create a lower pressure here, and there's going to be a push, and then we could fly. Like, by the way, the birds over here, right? Maybe we could fly." And the thing is, if you come up with that idea, you can't do it alone. The Adair, whether the Adair brothers who built their first plane, the point is, something you can't try them alone. You need to have other people with you. So this is where it's important to be able to discuss your ideas with others. So confrontation, nothing heavy can fly. Counter opinion, something heavy can fly if we do this and this and this and this and that. And talk. Result. Progress is made of that. So why we're wrong sometimes? First, the expertise bias. A very simple example: you got a performance problem on a website, and then you got in a room, you got the JavaScript specialist, you got the, let's say, middleware specialist, and you got the database specialist, or an API if you want. The JavaScript guy will tell you the JavaScript is too long, we should optimize it. The database guy says, oh, it's a database, I saw something not optimal. We should look into it, we should improve here, this and that. And the middleware will talk about the middleware, and the API will talk about the API. Because as experts, we learn to recognize problems. That's what makes us expert. The problem is when we go out of our expertise, we tend to apply this, and we tend to recognize the thing we don't. Side joke for that is the guy who looks for his keys that he dropped somewhere, and it's night, and he's looking under a lamppost. And somebody comes and says, "Why are you looking here? What, you seem to be looking for something, your keys? Did you drop them here?" And the guy says, No. But why are you looking here? Because here, there's light. Expertise bias. I look where I know when I'm competent at. So we have that. Other example of a bias. Engagement bias. You want to go buy this item, and you say, it shouldn't take more than 20 minutes. I don't want to take more than 20 minutes. It's not worth it. You go to a mall, let's say, and you go to the shop, and you find that item is not there. Damn, they don't have it. But maybe there's another shop 5 minutes later. Okay, so you go check the other shop, and then the other shop. And wait, now there's another one, but it's like 15 minutes away. Come on, you already spent 35 minutes. Okay, you're going to go check. And at the end, you spend an hour for something. If you knew it would take an hour, you would not have done it. It's called the engagement bias. When we start to have invested in one way, we rationalize the way. We wanna rationalize that investment. We want to be convinced that we were right in the first place. And so no, not because you went one road doesn't mean you were right in the first place. Engagement bias. There's also social bias. I mentioned peer pressure, alignment, or if it's your nature, you want to always contradict people. It happens too. There's a lot of them. The point is that's why we're just mere humans, and we may not see things the right way, and we may not handle debate the right way. And that's why we need to learn about that. And we need to recognize in ourselves, and we need more than one brain in a room to eventually figure out what's the proper outcome for this. Okay, so now you can speak up. You know now you have basic elements to bring a healthy conversation with your teammates. But that one is magic. How long does it take for you to change your mind if you see a counterfact that you validate, or a counter a reasoning that you didn't have before, or an outcome you didn't think about? How long does it take? You think it was worth it, and suddenly something new comes up. How do you change your mind? I'm not even speaking in public, by yourself. Does it take you a split second, a minute, 5 minutes, an hour? Do you need to think about it over the weekend? Or actually, do you straight up need to go for a month? I know this myself. It took me years to see that I was wrong in some elements in my life. And how long does it take you? We're humans. We bring ego. We take it personally. We don't want to let it go. But the ability to change your mind facing new elements, new logical elements, is key. The same way you're not supposed to change your mind if there is nothing new. If there is something new, how long does it take you? And that's my point. This is also a skill. It's a muscle that you can train. The more you do it, the better at it you are. And how actually can you train people in your team? It comes straight from one of these great technical leaders I talk about. That guy, he has, he's what? At the time, he was more than 15 years of experience. And he got juniors coming in a team. He want to train them to that. So he tells them, twice a day, find something in my code that I did wrong and bring it up twice a day. At the beginning, I thought it was great exercise for training the juniors. And then I realized he's not training the juniors just. He's training himself. He's training himself to be wrong, or to be challenged and probably proven wrong twice a day. Because the juniors usually are very relevant, actually. Everybody actually looking at it will find something. Nobody's perfect. And even if he did right, did he know that he was doing right? Did he have a reasoning behind his choices? So they force him to go with his analytics and figure out what he could do better. And figure out, can he change his mind? And he's honest. The other day, I went nuts, angry, upset, and no way. There was no way. The weekend passed. I came back on Monday. Like, sorry, I was an asshole. And you're right. Just let's do it. Let's do it. But it took him a weekend and a little more, and that's us. That's what we do. We're human. We can only do this. But the point is, my point is, understand that you can have a system of thinking, and there are skills out there. You can acquire them, you can learn them. And these skills are a very explicit thing to talk about, and they talk about it with their team. So start now. Now, sometime, case pro, case cons, and yet after all this discussion and this debate and the rational and thinking, like, you still can't sort it out. Our ability to solve things rationally has its limit. We're not as smart as the problem we're trying to face very often. Sometimes it takes time. Best case, actually, Steve Jobs mentioned it. His biography mentioned it, but you see it elsewhere. After somebody would come to him again and again and again, and Steve Jobs was almost a sort of a Jedi mind trick of convincing you that if you still bring something up and all, and he can't provide you with rationale that will make you change your mind, then I'll say, look, I respect your intuition and your passion. Okay, go try it out. Very simple case, right? Instead of debating forever, however, agree to disagree. Maybe realize you're already accepting that there are different realities. There is you and your point of view. There is the other person point of view. And nobody can say they're wrong. Sometimes you can even imagine that you validate the whole thing from the other person. The other facts and analysis and the outcome. And then your facts and analysis and your outcome, even though they come to an opposite conclusion. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we're not smart enough to figure that out in advance. So try, make an experiment and learn together. This is where people who disagree realize they are working together. Disagreeing is a healthy moment of thinking. A little more resource references, because I can't go too long on that, time-wise. Google assertive communication. There's much to say, but the quick story would be learn to talk by staying in your own story, staying in your own space, leaving room for the other person to take their own space and interact with you. So don't interact for them if you prefer. Stay in your own story and learn to speak self-centered. That tip came out around quite much. Have you ever seen these movies? Have you ever seen these movies where the whole company is going one way, and then there's this guy who's wiser or something, but they don't see the opportunity, so he goes in his basement and he does a little thing in his calculation, and he writes the report of the world and everything, and then the reports come, the experiment, he brings it up someday to the team and say, ta-da, look at that, I told you it would be working, and I was working. And they all change their mind and they save the world and everyone applauds. That never happened in the real world. In a real world, so my point is, don't go underground. It doesn't work. The idea is you have to get people on board with you in your reflection, even if it's symbolic. One of these guy I interviewed was telling me, even though he was respected senior and everything, and an expert in a domain, he brought up a topic to the team. He made a whole prototype. He showed them, okay, see, I already worked on it. It's ready, so we can push it up. It's going to be better because X, Y, Z. Look at that, it's magic. Shall we start on it tomorrow? And people were looking at him like, well, look, this is nice and well. With all due respect, it's like, I'm kind of busy right now. Maybe we could. Basically, there were no answer from the team. And he realizes he had to start over with them. What's the problem? What is he trying to solve? Are you guys agreeing we have something to solve here? Can I do a prototype on it? How about I do a prototype on it if you all agree with it? And then he brought it up, and then they were all right. Symbolically, the symbol was a difference. It was the same, but they had to go the whole reflection with it. To put it simply, you'll find it in negotiation, in nonviolent communication, etc. I'm breaking it down to you. People need to agree on the problem before they agree on the solution. If you push a solution to them and say, hey, by the way, here's a problem you never heard about, and here's the solution, they will feel pushed. They don't have the time to process. They don't have the time to integrate this logic analysis. Oh, gosh. They don't have the time. And because they're good engineers, they will take the time to evaluate the new option. They need to take it. So the whole thing about going underground, I know it's frustrating. Sometimes we want to go our own way, and we will show them it is not working. Don't do it. So you heard the way the guy brought it up, and this is something you can use in conversation as an intro when you want to bring a counterpoint, when you want to go when you're going to go for this prototype. You can just make people understand you're going to bring it up. it's a very useful and social skill, very easy to reproduce. So, hey, may I raise a counterpoint, or may I be blunt? I'd like to try this and this and that. What do you guys think? So, asking these questions give power to your counterparts. It also warns them that, hey, trouble arrived in the conversation. Let me bring something you don't expect. And these warnings work very well. You can't imagine completely outside of project management and tech and else. You see that everywhere, just giving a heads up for people about something will come. And asking them sometimes, may I be blunt? Is it a good time to talk about the performance, etc.? And in my case, it's simple. Talking to the client, like, is it the right time to talk about my doubts about web or the web driver versus Cypress? And usually I do know this is not the point of this meeting. Let's talk about it another time. Like, all right, I'll come back another time. But sometimes I say like, okay, bring it up. So you give them a heads up, they make themselves ready to hear it. And by the way, if you ask a question right, this is an extremely important point. How to ask a question properly. You wait for the yes when it's a binary question like this. Can I bring a point? Well, there's no one in the chat, so I can't really know. What's up. Okay, I got questions. Great, guys. And so you wait for an explicit yes, and this is how they have agreed. Remember, silence is not yes. I'm going to fast forward quick. Next point for you is if you want to break down, you find great thing, 7 habits of highly effective people can remind you of that. Seek to understand the other point before being understood. That one is difficult, I can tell you, but in tech debate, it's so generous. It's so, my God, you really laying the land for healthy conversation and leaving a lot of room for yourself. And the last part, work your self-awareness. There's a lot of personality tests, for example, MBTI, color thingy, personality types, you name it. Let me simplify it for you. Pick one, that's it. And that's the same truth always. They will tell you that you are unique. They will tell you that people are different. And that's it. People are unique. I mean, you are unique. People are different. And then whichever the angle of that test will give you, it just makes you understand that we come from different angle, personality, point of view, background thing. There is a reason why you don't see what they see. They don't see what you see. So that's my last point. To improve really how you're gonna have this debate and everything. It's a very great knowledge to start to learn a little about yourself and your bias. Are you a yes person? Are you a no person? Do you handle pressure very well, etc.? What's your preferred contribution in a conversation? It will really help you deal with that. Thank you very much, and let me read the Q&A.
Hi, Guillaume. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. So, and okay, I think we have.
Sorry, go ahead.
We have some interesting questions here. So the most voted question is how to treat a stubborn colleague who is a senior and who always thinks his ideas are the best and does not accept any confrontation. No arguments are considered unless they are approving his opinion. I think this is very, very well known.
Yeah. I'm trying to get where I got that, but it was a great. That probably comes from actually a negotiation book, but the guy mentioned that his father will always keep asking questions. If you don't get it, say, I don't understand. The humble posture, like, so how does this and that work in that case? And how about, and I'm sorry, I don't get it. If you don't get it, say you don't get it. But this is where, look at some points that person, just the infinite patience, It's also a way for you to learn to ask questions and to trick and provide angle. The famous heads up. Hey, if you think like really nobody's expecting, like, hey, sorry, I do have a counterpoint. May I? Okay. So how do you, etc. With some type of personality you mentioned, sometimes they're just not used to it. But my point is, look, you're legitimate here. You are legitimate. Politics are politics, but where nobody beats the facts. They don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it, but nobody beats the facts. So if you stay true to the fact, the point is you cannot be contradicted. People can tell you, what do you know? And you just ask your question.
So I think asking questions is a good way, because sometimes we assume that other people know what we are talking about and know what we think. And so we don't have all the facts on the table. And so asking questions maybe help to get a better understanding for their point of view, right?
Yeah, and simply saying, I don't understand this and that. It's a humble posture. Nobody can yell at you for not understanding, or, well, they may, but then they should be able to explain it in a way that doesn't suffer, that you get, and that you validate. So the little naive guy, I love the book. Well, I don't have it here. Radical Candor is fantastic for that, and I like that they bring the notion of candor. Just forget about the guy, the big guy. He's talking. He's always been doing that. Just turn your point, ask your question, be candid. What about this? What about that?
Okay, Justin, does this answer your question? I hope so, because I think it's a very, very complicated topic, and it depends a lot on the situation itself. But Guillaume has some really helpful suggestions. There's another question.
Okay.
Top management may not be understanding enough about test or test automation subjects. How can we draw them into the subject?
I could go with my topic, which is basically, usually we're missing their outcome. We don't see things that we need to find an outcome that they're sensitive about. When we talk about top management, we're talking about strategy. If I give you an example, I think 15 years ago, I was in exactly that position, trying to advocate for unit testing, TDD actually, for the teams we were helping. I'll spare you the context. And everybody was talking about quality is good, quality. And we had that guy who was like, dude, I got people on the payroll. What's the ROI? And we're like, wait, of course you're more productive if you do unit testing. And we completely flipped and we say, you want to be productive? You got to do unit testing. And suddenly we went through it like butter. That's it, no objection. And we believe it, of course, right? We're not bullshitting our way. We just find an angle that they see. Usually when you go there, a little bit of social engineering can help. If you're not comfortable, or if you don't understand what the top management does, find somebody who can help you. I like to say every Batman has a Robin. I don't tell you if you're Robin or Batman, but sometimes I saw a lot of couples where you got the social guy, a bit of a yes man, a bit of compromise, but he's very good at that. And you got the freaking nerd. I actually have a friend who built a super successful startup. This is their way. He's the talker, and he respects the engineer who he knows probably has the best truth. And the other one, he's just annoyed by the people who don't get it. But he knows he's also not very good at bringing it up. And they work in teams. So find somebody, hey, I had that idea. I don't know how to bring it up. Do you think you can help me? And we can't do it alone sometimes.
Okay, thank you, Guillaume. Thank you for this interesting presentation and for your answers for the Q&A. We have not enough time to answer all the rest of it. So for all
Radical
of you
candor.
in front, Radical Candor for the last one.
Fantastic start.
I think you will also be available on the Pine platforms if someone wants to drop you a message, right?
Yes, just know that I'm 6 hours later than you guys, so I'm gonna be mindful of my family life, and I'm probably gonna drop off I'm gonna see in an hour. I'm probably gonna drop off, but I'm gonna see your messages tomorrow morning in the middle of your night, and I'll try to check it out.
Okay.
And
Thank you very much.
We have the panel tomorrow about the future of automated testing. We already have some curveball questions to throw at each other, but I would love to have more inspiration from you guys.
Okay. Thank you very much. And for all of you in front of the screens, We will be back in a few minutes with BDD and its more than acceptance test. See you. Bye.